Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're tackling a common challenge for apartment dwellers, limited space. But don't worry, because we've got some amazing painting hacks that can transform your small apartment into a stylish and spacious oasis. Now, although paint can't add square footage physically, we can create the illusion of space and expansiveness through some clever tactics. But before we get into the video, please do me a favor and press that like button, hit that subscribe button, and press that notification bell so you stay up to date with all of our content. Let's start with the power of light. Anywhere you can add light is always going to be a good thing in a smaller space, but you can also reflect more light into the space by opting for light neutral colors on the walls like white, cream, or even a light gray that's nice and airy. These colors reflect a lot of light, making your space feel brighter and more open. They may not necessarily make your space feel bigger, but I tend to prefer lighter leaning colors in those more open parts of your home, just to sort of maximize the amount of light that's in there. Another thing you can do is go with bright trim. Painting your trim a slightly lighter color than your walls can create a sense of height and openness, and you don't even need to go with a bright white necessarily. Even a couple shades lighter can create a little more of a seamless look, which will help your trim from cutting off the walls in very dramatic ways, like a more high contrast trim color might do. So that's lighting. Let's talk about clever color blocking. The first tip I tend to recommend for people in apartments is to use accent walls. Paint one or two accent walls in a bold color to draw attention to that wall, which might distract people from noticing that your space maybe isn't that big. Normally when you're in your apartment, especially when you first walk in, that's the impression that you want to make on your guests. I would tend to go for a wall that is furthest away from that main sight line, which will help elongate the room, make it feel even bigger. Another great place for an accent wall, of course, is behind the TV or the main console or a bed's headboard, just to sort of frame it in a nice way, and also to visually draw your eye to that wall. Whatever bolder colors you go with, whether it's just a few shades darker in the neutral category or an accent color altogether, pick colors that complement your more neutral leaning walls for a more cohesive look. Are you needing some extra color advice? We can help you out in several different ways. In addition to my custom palette pyramids, we also now offer full-on color consultations with Maria, our full-time interior designer. Whether you're just looking for the palette from me or something a little more detailed with Maria, check the links in the description down below. This next tip will definitely make a space feel bigger, but it may not be for everyone. It's horizontal stripes. Honestly, painting horizontal stripes on a wall can make a room feel wider. However, be mindful of the scale of the stripes. Too large and they can overwhelm a space, and then too small, they may not have the desired effect. If you are going in this direction, I would pick something very neutral and matted, or even a wallpaper that has a bit of a horizontal design to it that can give you that more expansive effect. Number 3 is ceiling magic. Paint your ceiling a shade or two lighter than your walls to create a sense of height. If your ceiling is parallel to the floor, if it's just a flat ceiling, I would almost always recommend having your ceiling a different color from the walls, usually a lighter color, whether it's a couple shades lighter or just a bright white. This can make the room feel less cramped, more spacious and airy. And in the more rare cases, darker ceilings can help make the space feel taller because it's going to absorb light and draw your eyes upwards. But unfortunately, with that taller looking ceiling, you will compromise on less light reflection in the room. So pick your poison. Small and airy or big and dark. A glossy finish on your ceiling will be reflective, which could create the illusion of a larger feeling room. However, kind of like the horizontal lines, it's probably not going to be for everyone because glossy finishes highlight imperfections in the ceiling. So if you don't have a perfectly smooth glass-like finish, it may look a bit messy and not desirable. So just be mindful of that. For most people, matte finish or a flat finish, an ultra flat finish on the ceiling is preferable. I know I'm the paint color guy, but let's talk about some furniture and decor tricks. Whether you do a reflective shiny finish on your ceiling, you can have those reflective surfaces outside of paint finishes in the form of mirrors. Place mirrors strategically throughout your home to reflect a lot of light and create the illusion of a more expansive space. A large mirror can really make a room feel twice its size, so be mindful of this and try and experiment with fun designs. You can get some really cool looking accent mirrors too. Also, you could do a more stripped down, minimalist approach to your design by keeping your furniture and your decor to a minimum to avoid clutter. Clutter can really make a small space feel even smaller because you're just going to be stuck amongst all these things and you don't feel like you have room to breathe. But on that note, if you have a small amount of furniture, I wouldn't recommend having a small amount of small furniture. It's actually the opposite. Get some big pieces that really suit the space that can actually help make your room feel bigger rather than a tiny, teeny little dollhouse with little furniture, little couch. Fill the space, but not with a lot of things, if that makes sense. And for another slightly controversial tip, glass furniture is always a good thing to at least consider. Consider a glass top table or coffee tables to create a sense of openness and transparency. You're not having these big opaque furniture pieces blocking out some sight lines. You can see through glass, which can make the space feel bigger. If you have kids and pets that are known to bump things, glass is obviously breakable. And more importantly, glass is very hard to keep clean. So just be mindful of that too. Not super practical, but it will technically make your apartment feel bigger. Next up, don't forget the doors. And for most people, I would just say to paint them white. White doors can make a room feel brighter and more open. If your doors are currently a dark color, if you paint them white, it will make your apartment feel that much more spacious. And for some additional tips, natural light. You probably can't cut out a window physically, but what you can do is maximize the natural light you have at your disposal by keeping windows clean and curtains open. And if you still want some privacy, get some blinds that let some light in that are semi-translucent, but at least can block out any peering eyes looking in. Artificial lighting is another one. Use a combination of overhead lighting and accent lighting and task lighting to brighten up your space. Especially if natural light is a bit of a struggle, you don't really have a lot of it, you can supplement that with awesome floor lamps, table lamps, and some great chandeliers. I guess you can do pot lights too, but you know, my thoughts on pot lights are a bit mixed at the moment, but anyway, one of the most important things I would say is declutter regularly. Making sure everything is nice and tidy, organized, there's a place for everything, as best as you can, of course. It'll help make your space feel less cramped and more organized. And when you are in a small apartment, you don't really have the luxury of tons of storage, so maximizing what's there is always going to be a helpful thing. By using these painting hacks and interior design tips, you can make your small apartment feel much larger and more inviting. Remember, a little creativity and some planning can go a long way in transforming a small space. Have you tried any of these painting hacks in your small apartment? Share your experiences and tips in the comments below. And if you have any other tips, please share. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Sharing is caring.